of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Schmidt will take roll call.
Commissioner Bennett? Not here. Commissioner Blinkley?
Here.
Commissioner Doris?
Here.
Vice Chair Howley?
Here.
Commissioner Kine?
Present.
Commissioner Mobley?
Here.
And Chair Seitz.
Here. Okay, fellow commissioners, if you would, please look at your minutes from July 11th, 2023. Upon review, we'll entertain motions for either amendment or approval.
Motion to approve minutes.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the minutes from the July 11th meeting and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for the preparation of minutes. At this time, we're going to allow members from the public to speak on any item that's not on the agenda. You can come forward and address the commission either in person or over Zoom for 180 seconds. Please be advised that the commission is not able to deliberate or take action on those issues presented during oral comments. I guess we don't have oral comments. Is there a motion to close?
Motion to close public comment.
Very well.
Second.
Very well. With the motion second, we can close that. Thanks, Andy. Okay, we move on to our business tonight, which is one, Mr. Ralph Johnson has two items on our agenda. Public hearing to consider the approval of a minor subdivision of 0.37 acre parcel into 1.14 acre and another 0.23 acre parcel. I'll turn it over to staff.
Okay.
Schmidt is going to be providing our staff report tonight.
Awesome.
All right, so I'm going to do the presentation on both agenda items. When it comes time for the vote, there'll be separate resolutions, and I would need you to vote for the use permit resolution first, and then the subdivision resolution second. So the application is for a minor subdivision of 1.37 acre parcel, dividing it into two parcels, 1.14 and 1.23 parcel. In addition, there's a use permit application to allow a lot width modification from the minimum lot frontage of 60 feet to 51.3 feet in the front and 52.3 feet in the rear. The aerial view, you can see that the parcel is developed with a 1,500 square foot single-family home and a 640 square foot, currently it's an accessory dwelling unit. Once the lot split happens, then each parcel will be developed with a single-family residence. And here's a street view of the two homes. The ADU it's on the smaller side. It was constructed before our newer ADU ordinance was enacted that allowed some of the larger ADUs, but from the street, it really has a nice presence, and it looks, like a standard single-family home. You can't really tell that it's on the smaller side. And then on parcel 2, we have the historic single-family residence. The area is zoned R16, which is residential single-family with a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. The lot split will allow each lot to remain compliant with the zoning. The smaller lot will be 6,050 square feet, and they will remain compliant with the general plan land use designation of rural low. And the tentative parcel map shows the lot dimensions, some of the current easements, and easements that will be required once the final parcel map is submitted. There's been a few things that have been deferred. Those are part of the conditions of approval. We'll go over those in a bit. And this is just a close-up showing the dimensions of parcel 1, that they are slightly undersized from the minimum lot width that's allowed. And that's what you'll be voting on for the conditional use permit. There's a section of the municipal code that allows for a reduction if there are site constraints that would prohibit the full minimum width. And in this case, for the 2 parcels to be split and still allow for the 5-foot setbacks on either side of the structures to the property line, it required a small reduction in that lot width.
Katie, what's the setback between the two?
But it's 5 feet on each side, for both.
Between the houses, 5 feet on each
Yes.
side?
And so they were constructed, the accessory dwelling unit was constructed with that 5 feet because that's also the zoning code, or the building code requires a minimum distance between the 2 structures. So they were already compatible with the zoning, just the arrangement of the split just required a small reduction. The conditions of approval that were listed in the staff report, most of them are standard conditions of approval. There are some that were specific to this project, that will be future easements for the utilities, and then driveways for the two parcels and the 2 residences, so that each parcel will have its own driveway. And then you can see here on the corner, there's some utilities located. Standard condition would be that the applicant would install sidewalks and curb and gutter at the time of the subdivision. However, we're deferring that in this case because of the location of the utilities that are eventually going to be moved. So rather than have them construct a sidewalk for the sake of constructing a sidewalk and then tearing the sidewalk up later to replace it, they'll enter into an agreement.
In a case like this, do they deposit funds to allow
What it will
payment
be
of
is
the
a development
sidewalks?
agreement, and that will be recorded, and that'll be attached to the title. So that'll pass to each parcel, will be responsible for that once the city requests that those be constructed, once that project gets underway at a later date. So if the parcels were to sell, it would go on with that.
So if they wanted to sell off one of the parcels, they could not do so without that parcel coming up with the...
It stays attached to the title, so they wouldn't, at the time of sale, they wouldn't be required to do the sidewalks. We've used the language at the city's request, so the city has some projects in store later.
So just for the sake of argument, what could happen that would force them to put in the sidewalks, and that if they could sell the parcels and continue to sell the parcels in the future?
Well, the development agreement is attached to the title, and so that's a standing legal agreement. I would assume that if they absolutely refused, the city could install the sidewalks and place a lien on the property.
Place a lien on their property? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
You know, the other thing, a couple things, I talked to our city engineer, he's out on vacation, or he might otherwise come, but some of the utility conflicts you can see in the picture.
Yeah.
He didn't think it made sense. And then further, more additionally, down Ronerville Road, there's no other sidewalk on that side. So even if we were able to have them put it in now and resolve those conflicts right away, it still wouldn't go anywhere. So
Yeah, it doesn't make
It makes
sense
sense
to
to
do it now.
defer it at this point. And we really try not to defer those sidewalks. We've had it come up where it's been difficult. The recorded agreements certainly help and they'll be enforceable, but this one, you know, there would be too much work that the city has to do ahead of time, and we didn't want to delay the
So it's
project.
something that down the road, if you decide that you want to put in sidewalks along a stretch of that road, then whoever has an agreement like this would be
Yes.
required to submit funds for their
Yes.
portion.
Right, and so they'd be aware of that. They'd see it on the preliminary title report when they bought the property, if the property was to sell.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And that's all the slides that I have. The findings in support of the subdivision and the use permit show that the subdivision is in conformance with the general plan, the municipal code, and that it is exempt from CEQA. And as I said, when you when you do your vote, we'll do the use permit vote first, approving the lot width reduction, and then approving the subdivision. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. Would, following subdivision, would one be able to place ADUs on each of these lots?
They would, because this is not, they did look at doing an SB 9 subdivision, which would prohibit an ADU. This would be just a standard subdivision, so if down the road that was something that they wanted to do, provided they could meet the lot coverage and setbacks and all of that, there would be no prohibition for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners of staff or on the project? So we're going to be looking at having a motion on the second item first, the conditional use permit. Before we do that, we need to open it up for public comment. So it's now open for public comment, Zoom or in person.
Yeah, good evening. This is Wally Wright. I prepared the tentative map and am the surveyor, and am quite satisfied with the the conditions of approval. I did have one question that came up, and that is the development agreement. I want to be clear that that only applies to curb, gutter, and sidewalk, and not to any other utility, relocation, storm drains, any other products that might be required if and when the city ever gets to developing that side of Ronerville Road.
That's correct. The intention is for the deferral of the sidewalk only. And the development agreement would only include the sidewalk. There's no expectation the landowner would relocate utilities or do anything like that.
Excellent. And then, as you can see on the aerial photo, both properties kind of share the driveway off of Ronerville Road, and I'm hoping to work with the client and see exactly how we need to structure a reciprocal agreement so that both parties can utilize the existing driveways off of Ronerville Road currently, but then if and when the city ever gets around to putting that sidewalk in, I'm not sure how that could affect the access to the two parcels, and I guess we'll have to figure that out when that time comes. And I'm hopefully the city will be flexible enough that we can make it work, so to speak. Other than that, unless you have any questions, that's all I have.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If there is none, we'll entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close public comment.
Is there a second?
Second that motion?
All in favor to close public comment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we now come to the time where we'll receive a motion. The recommendations are further into your packet. We're looking at the second one first on a conditional use permit.
I will make a motion to adopt resolution number P-2023-3106, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Fortuna approving a conditional use permit to allow a lot width modification from the minimum lot frontage.
Second.
Okay,
All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Bennett?
Aye.
Commissioner Blakely?
Yes.
Commissioner Doris?
Yes.
Vice Chair Halley?
Yes.
Commissioner Kine?
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley?
Yes.
And Chair Sights?
yes. We now come to the other item, which the recommendation is earlier in your packet, just a couple pages past the minutes. And are you going to do a separate presentation, city staff?
No.
No. Then we will open that up for public comment. Do we need separate public comment? We probably,
They're a separate agenda.
they are separate agenda items. What we're talking about on this one is that the conditional use permit has been passed. Now we're looking at the approval of this subdivision itself, the principal action. So we'll open public comment on the actual subdivision of this property into two parcels over Zoom or in person. Now is your time to speak.
Motion to close public comment.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of closing public comment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Public comment is closed. We are now ready to entertain a motion regarding the subdivision itself.
I make a motion to adopt Resolution P-2019-3105, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Fortuna approving a tentative parcel map to subdivide a 3.7 acre parcel into 1.14 acre and 1.23 acre parcel.
Second that.
All right. Cool.
I just,
Does it matter that his numbers are not correct?
yeah, I was going to say, we should reread that maybe, because he said 3.37.
Wish I had 3.3.
What is it?
0.37.
Oh, 0.37, excuse me.
I didn't know if it messed things up in the future, so.
You'd be running into some land. We acknowledge that the motion itself is 0.37 acres that's divided into 0.14 and 0.23. Okay, so Ms. Schmidt will take a roll call vote of the motion in the second.
Commissioner Bennett,
In favor?
Commissioner Blakely,
Yes.
Commissioner Doris,
Yes.
Vice Chair Halley,
Yes.
Commissioner Kine,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
and Chair Sights.
Yes. Okay, both motions on tonight's business have passed. Congratulations
Yay.
and blessings on your parcel development. We move on to Planning Commission staff communication.
I just have one item. We took the multifamily design standards to the city council meeting last night, and the council really, they had some questions, but not a lot of substantial questions. We did have some comments from the public about very specific things, like, some of the optional standards for compliance, such as recessed windows. And so we had one commenter who thought some of the things could create buildability or drip issues or unnecessary expense. So we're going to take a look at some of the comments from members of the public. It was actually Sue Long, and she's a pretty prominent builder. And so the council asked us to take a look at those comments and see how we'd incorporate those. So we're going to look into see if we need to bring those back to the Planning Commission. But they are looking at revising those slightly, mostly for some constructability issues and maybe some things that would affect costs. But, I don't think there was a long list. There's maybe half a dozen things. So just to know that moved forward, it's likely that'll move forward, but it was continued to the next city council meeting if there's interest. And we'll look into whether or not it needs to come back to this body for a recommendation before it goes back to the council.
Are those suggestions being sent to the design team first?
Those are going to go back, yes, to our consultant team and
So
to
they're
city
going to
staff.
be working on possible
Response.
response and then
Yeah,
they'll bring
whether
that
we want to
us.
take it, leave it, change it, whatever the case may be, and then we'll bring back the resolution to council approving the design standards. And once so depending on what the comments are, we may bring the ordinance at the same time, but likely we'll bring the resolution back with whatever our response is to those changes.
Okay.
And I guess just one other thing to report, the city is making headway on its specific plan for the Fortuna Mill site. The Fortuna Chamber of Commerce reinstituted their lunchtime meetings, and they had the new owner of the mill site made a presentation of what their vision is for the site, but it really didn't go into a lot of detail on what the concept was. But Vince Rizzo presented on behalf of the Fortuna Mill Commerce Center and really kind of just shared the community what their idea is and how they want to market the site and what they want to do there. But we're working right now with the applicant on a concept design that the city will then advance to the specific plan level, and we'll be starting the environmental document for that, as well as general plan amendments and zoning updates. So there's going to be quite a bit of public input, and we're thinking that one of the best venues would be there's a lot of interest in the mill site, so we're thinking a joint meeting perhaps of the Planning Commission and City Council, maybe at the River Lodge where we can have a larger group. The meeting was really well attended yesterday, and so I think we really just want to get it out to as many people as possible and to kind of go through a sequential process of public meetings and Planning Commission and Council. We just want to put the whole thing out there and really seek feedback as quickly as possible. So that'll be coming up in the next few months. I'm not sure exactly what the timeline is, but soon. So that's all I have to report. Did you have anything, Katie?
Well, we do have some more news. Did you want to?
Yeah, Commissioner Hallie will take over his chair because I'll be relocating out of the city of Fortuna. And so she'll take over if we don't have a meeting next time. So keep your eyes and ears out for another commissioner. I've been happy to serve with you, and I hope you serve longer than I do. Do we have anything else? You commissioners got anything? Then it's that time of the night where we entertain one final motion.
Motion to close.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Thank you.
Your last roll call vote, possibly. Commissioner Bennett,
Favor.
Commissioner Blakely,
Yeah.
Commissioner Doris,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hallie,
Yes.
Commissioner Kine,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
and Chair Sights.
Yes, thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Mark. You're great.
You bet. You're good.